you have finally made the decision that you want to level up your climbing. What do you do next? In this video, we're going to go through how to evaluate your climbing according to Horst in his book, Training for Climbing, the definitive guide to improving your performance, 3rd edition. And if you aren't familiar with this book already, it's one of the top climbing training books that you can find anywhere. And I've just barely got it a couple of days ago and have done the self-assessment. I'm so excited and I wanted to share this with you. Before you can get better at anything, you need to know what your current level is. For example, if you're picking up photography, how is your composition? How is your lighting technique? Are you familiar with shutter speed, f-stops, all of that kind of stuff? And so in climbing, it's the same way. How is your technique? How is your strength and your mental abilities? Are you mentally strong when you climb? And that's where I found Horst's book, Training for Climbing, to be so helpful. Is they look at those 3 main elements of climbing: the mental, technical, and physical side of climbing. Let me give you some background into why I'm doing this. It's actually my birthday in less than 2 weeks, and I'm not old, but I am getting to that point where I need to decide what I want to do and go after that. And one of those things is becoming a really proficient climber. I'm not really interested in being a professional climber or competing on the world stage, but I do want to be, climbing V8s, maybe even V9s in the next year or 2. And hopefully I'll be able to keep up with my climbing as I continue to get older. Every single year I've noticed something gets a little achy with my body, like my knees start to ache, my back has been giving me problems for a couple of years. I'm not old, but I think climbing is something that will help me stay active as I get older. And it's not something that I'll be able to do as a 70-year-old probably, because my shoulders would come out of their sockets. But I've seen 70-year-olds climb on social media, so maybe I can. And this is one way that I'm going to try and help stay healthier while also leveling up my climbing and making me happier. So the first self-assessment was to go through pain points that you might have while climbing. So to do this, I actually went to the gym and I did a bunch of climbing, and then I did this assessment afterwards. Some key things that you should keep in mind before doing this test run or assessing yourself is it needs to be as fresh climbing as possible. If you're thinking about the climbing you did before COVID shut down, you're not where you were before, I promise. I'm so sorry. Even if you've been practicing at home, you have a home wall, you have physical equipment, you are at a different stage than you were before. So climb, evaluate after you climb. And if you don't have a coach who can watch you or a friend who's extremely experienced in climbing, you can film yourself. So I actually had Meg film me. She filmed me while I climbed, and then I reviewed the footage afterwards. And while I was reviewing the footage, I did the assessment. So not only was the climbing fresh on my mind, but I had video evidence. So I wasn't just thinking like, oh yeah, I think that was hard. It was, oh, clearly I have an Elvis leg here, so it must happen. The video will be good for you to use, and you can bring a tripod if you are bold enough, but if you're not bold enough, when I was in Denver climbing at the gym last year, I had my chalk bag and I propped my phone against my chalk bag, and I had the video on the chalk bag. So I was able to get all the information I needed. It wasn't very pretty, but I was able to get all the information I needed from my climbing there, just without a tripod, just with my phone propped up against the chalk bag. You go through each of these questions and you rate them, 0 being almost always, 1 often, 2 about half the time, 3 occasionally, 4 seldom, 5 never. Number 1, my footwork, use of feet, deteriorate during the hardest part of the climb. And unfortunately, in one of the climbs, I noticed that I would get kind of flustered at the really hard part of the climb. And then when I watched the video again, I go, okay, but I have an Elvis knee right there, so clearly I'm not using my feet the way I need to be using them and putting my weight in my feet. So my footwork needs improvement at the hardest part. And so I use in this part of the assessment, 0 is almost always, 1 often, 2 about half the time, 3 occasionally, 4 seldom, 5 never. I put occasionally on here, and you go through all of these questions. So I've got 30 different questions, though I thought there were 35 when I first started. There's 30. And you go through each of them. There's different parts. There's questions that are talking about your mental, physical, and then also technique and tactics. And then at the end, they walk you through which questions are related to each subject, so you can actually add them up and total to see what part of climbing you need to work on the most. If all 3 areas are within 5 points of one another, congratulate yourself for being a climber of balanced abilities. Yay! That's about the only thing I've got going for me. And I would love to get, what did you score when you used the Training for Climbing assessment? Mental, 33. Technique, 29. Physical, 28. So they're all within 5, but they're all really low. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that each section has 10 questions, so you can get up to 50 points. And I got a 33 out of 50, a 29 out of 50, and a 28 out of 50. It's not horrible, but there's definitely a lot of working room. Now, as I mentioned, my technique is 29 and physical is 28. According to the book, you should be working on the thing that you struggle with the most. But the thing I struggle with the most is physical, and the second to most is technique. My thought is if I practice technique, the strength will come with it later, and if it doesn't, then I can train physical later, because I do some exercising outside of climbing. So I can do that if I need to, but for now I'm going to focus on technique. An awesome thing about this book is there's an entire chapter just for technique, so it walks you through different exercises you can do. So for example, in the technique section there's actually a score your technical ability, so you can break down your technique even further. So there's example, precise quiet foot placement that carry your weight. Excellent, good, so-so, poor. Handholds grip lightly, arms in secondary roll. Dynamic movements, dead points and lunges, and jam crack climbing. So you go through each of these techniques and you rate them, excellent, good, so-so, or poor. And from there you can practice your technique, and there's actually some examples of things that you should do to practice the technique in this book, so it's pretty awesome. Now that you've done the self-evaluation, you know what you need to work on. Is it mental? Is it physical? Is it technique? And if it is, then there's a couple of things that you can do. You can get this book for recommendations, but there's also tons of other books out there. Vertical Mind is a great book for mental. I've got the audio version of that book and really enjoyed it. There are blogs online like sendedition.com that walks you through techniques so you can practice techniques. And then physical, there are so many videos on YouTube for physical training, climbing specific. And once I get more into the physical side of climbing, I will include my own videos on this channel. But in the meantime, there are tons of videos out there. Anna Davey, for example, does a ton of workouts, and she's an amazing climber from Australia, so you can use her channel to find great workouts. Manny the Monkey has posted a ton of videos about his training regimen, which is fantastic. And then if you're also interested in someone who's not a climbing specific, I really like Athlean X. They do crazy videos that not only walk you through how to do the workout, but they have a lot of videos about the science behind the workout. So you're not doing stupid moves or moves incorrectly. You're doing what you need to get the most out of your workout. So those are 3 YouTube channels I would highly recommend for the physical side of climbing. Hopefully this video was helpful for you, and if it was, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. For the next 3 months, I am going off of Eric Horst's recommendation for his technique training recommendations. So check out the videos that I have coming out for that. They're going to be really helpful. I also do tips and tricks for bouldering and climbing, not to mention occasional gear reviews. So be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you again for watching to the end of this video, and enjoy your send.